In the fall of 1955, a strange mist lingered over Centralia, Pennsylvania, cloaking the village in an uneasy quiet. This was no ordinary fog. This smoke rose from the ground itself, a reminder of the fires burning in the mines below. Despite the silence that hung over the town like a shroud, news of a traveling carnival had stirred the locals with a touch of long-lost excitement. But for one young woman, the promise of bright lights and laughter would soon turn into a journey far darker than she could ever imagine. The bar is dimly lit, with low golden lights hanging from the ceiling, casting long shadows across the room. The smell of coal and stale beer mixes in the air, and the chatter of miners fills the background. Margaret Davis was no stranger to long nights. By day, she was a university student working toward a future outside Centralia. By night, she served as a waitress at the Miners' Tavern, a bar frequented by rough-handed men whose lives revolved around the coal mines. Margaret is wiping down a table when her friend Sarah approaches. Sarah, cheerful. "Maggie, did you hear? There's a carnival setting up outside town. It'll be open tonight." Margaret, smiling but weary. "A carnival? Out here? They sure picked a strange place to stop." Sarah, excited. "Come with us after your shift. It'll be fun, just like old times. Please?" Margaret hesitates, glancing over at her father, seated alone at the bar. His figure, silent and stoic, feels like a reminder of her own responsibilities. Margaret, relenting. "Fine, fine. I'll meet you all there, but don't expect me to get on any of those rides. I've seen what a Centralia fog does to metal." They laugh and Sarah heads off, leaving Margaret to finish her shift. Margaret worked the rest of her shift in anticipation. The sound of the carnival drifting into the village, a strange melody from an organ, almost like a whisper. Little did she know, that night would be the last time she saw her friends, alive. Margaret arrives at the carnival after dark. The entrance is lit by dull yellow lights, flickering like dying embers. Smoke from the mines below seems to wrap around the carnival grounds, mixing with the cold night air and casting an eerie glow over everything. After her shift, Margaret made her way to the carnival grounds, expecting laughter and the smell of popcorn. But as she stepped closer, a strange silence blanketed the air, broken only by the distant hollow tune of a calliope. Margaret stands at the entrance looking around. Margaret, whispering to herself, "Where are they?" She wanders through the dimly lit attractions. The Ferris wheel stands still, casting long shadows across the carnival grounds. No one is there. Not her friends, not the carnival workers. "Hello? Sarah? Tom?" Her voice echoes back at her, hollow and cold. With each step, Margaret felt a growing unease. The air was thick with smoke and something else, something metallic, sharp. She followed the faint sounds of laughter, only to find an empty fortune teller's tent. Then, her gaze fell upon a small building at the edge of the carnival, marked the Sideshow. Inside, dim lanterns hang from above, casting eerie shadows. The wax statues are arranged in disturbing poses, each one too lifelike to be mere replicas. They are dressed in carnival costumes, their faces frozen in expressions of terror. The tent was filled with wax figures, posed in strange, lifelike ways. Some were twisted, others hunched over in fear, but as Margaret moved deeper inside, her heart pounded. One figure looked all too familiar. Margaret approaches a statue resembling her friend, Sarah. Margaret, gasping, "Sarah?" There was no mistaking it. The statue's face was hers, down to the faint scar on her cheek from a childhood fall. But her expression was one Margaret had never seen before. Mouth open, eyes wide, frozen in utter terror. Margaret reaches out, her hand trembling as she touches Sarah's arm. It felt warm, not like wax, more like flesh. Margaret moves further into the tent, finding more statues that resemble her friends. Panic sets in as she realizes they are not statues but somehow trapped, alive yet frozen. She stumbled back, her mind racing. As she turned to leave, another figure caught her eye. Tom, her other friend, frozen in a silent scream. She could almost hear his voice, calling out to her, pleading. Margaret, whispering, "What is this place?" Suddenly, a soft voice speaks from the shadows. Carnival worker, calm, sinister, said. They were curious, just like you. But curiosity has a price. Margaret whirls around, coming face to face with an old man, his face hidden in shadow. What have you done to them? Oh, they're not gone. Not really. They're here, just frozen in time. This carnival, it has a way of holding on to things, you see. Margaret backs away, but the worker steps closer. Carnival workers say, once you enter, you're a part of it, forever. Margaret runs out of the tent, back through the empty carnival grounds. The fog is thicker now, almost as if it's closing in on her. Margaret's heart raced as she fled the tent, her footsteps echoing through the desolate carnival grounds. But as she reached the entrance, she skidded to a halt. She sees her friends standing by the entrance, but something is wrong. Their expressions are blank, their movements stiff. Margaret, whispering, "No." She watches in horror as her friends, now trapped as lifelike statues, turn to face her, their eyes pleading silently. The carnival had claimed them, and as she stared into the vacant eyes of her friends, Margaret realized the terrible truth. Once you enter, you can never truly leave. The carnival left town the next day, vanishing into the fog like a bad dream. But Centralia was never the same. For every so often, on cold, fog-laden nights, locals would claim they heard music drifting on the wind, calling them towards something lurking in the shadows, something waiting to claim its next guest.